This is the High School Crossfire. Welcome back.
Resolved. This House believes that Ubos is solely responsible for the failures in the recently concluded population census. Namanya Tuembere Divine, second Afama from St. Mawaggali Senior Secondary School. Ladies and gentlemen, the negators come and they give us many other bodies that they are blaming for the solely responsible failures of the recently concluded population census. Yet they actually explained solely properly, and they are giving us different other bodies. We're looking for that one body that they are putting the entire blame on. And for us, we come and tell you that it's the Uganda Bureau of Statistics that we are blaming. And then they come and tell us that the government, they are blaming the government. Ladies and gentlemen, Ubos can't work independently. Ubos is under the government. So when you blame the government, you're blaming Ubos. So they are siding with us, ladies and gentlemen. We come and tell them that according to monitor.com UG, Ubos has admitted that there have been glitches in the census exercise for which they take responsibility. Ladies and gentlemen, that statement alone should explain everything to them. Ubos has admitted there have been glitches. It's not the glitches and it has not denied. It has admitted. Save it for later. It has admitted and it has taken full responsibility. The glitches which range from faulty gadgets, delayed allowances, poor training of enumerators, lack of access to the Ubos system. Ladies and gentlemen, for the delayed allowances, in Boise, a section of enumerators staged a sit-down strike over their allowances that had been delayed. We are not going to blame... Save it for later. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't blame the citizens for staging a sit-down strike. We blame Ubos for failing to pay their allowances in time, leading to the sit-down strike. What's a sit-down strike? The enumerators sit down and all like, we are not enumerating. Ladies and gentlemen, Ubos should be blamed because of the faulty gadgets. Due to the faulty gadgets. In Luwero, save it for later. In Luwero, according to NTVR 10, enumerators in several zones, including Lumo and Kasoma, say that the tablets were faulty. Ladies and gentlemen, Ubos purchased two kinds of gadgets. These were gadgets that are bought at $540 each, and those at $164 each. These can't be gadgets of the same quality. Some were good quality and others were low quality. And of course, that can't be well. Ladies and gentlemen, we come to the inadequate training. Dr. Chris Balemu confirmed that the 9 days of training that Ubos gave the enumerators were not enough, since some enumerators had little experience on how to use these tablets. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't just come and you just can't come and train the enumerators for 9 days. People who didn't even know about how to use the tablets, and you give them 9 days? No. That is not it. And besides that, they even failed when it came to recruitment, because they recruited people who didn't know how to use gadgets, people who didn't have ICT knowledge, and they're giving them 9 days of training. So we don't get that at all. Ladies and gentlemen, there was improper planning by Ubos, whereby Ubos has 10 years of planning before the census can take place. But then it comes and asks for more 5 days for the census. And then it also asks for 23.7 billion to add into the planning. So is that proper planning, ladies and gentlemen? And can we blame all the other bodies they are blaming? No, we blame Ubos. Ladies and gentlemen, we come and tell you that the sensitization was inadequate by Ubos. Ubos failed to maximally sensitize the citizens, which led to them giving inaccurate data, whereby Ubos would have told the citizens how they're going to answer these 180 questions, and that these questions are actually helping in economic and social development, since people thought that some of these questions were sensitive and private and they failed to answer. I mean, you come and ask me how many televisions do I have? How many saucepans do I have in my house? How many spoons? People felt like this information is sensitive and private, and so they gave inaccurate data, or they didn't give data. And that was a failure of Ubos because it failed to sensitize the citizens. And with that, I rest my case.
Resolved. This House believes that Ubos is solely responsible for the failures in the recently concluded population census. Before I begin, I would like to ask Team Affirmers of who they come as in this debate. And I would also like to tell them that census is an activity that involves the entire country. So we do not have a body that we can solely blame for this. We have bodies such as the Parliament, the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, the Office of the Prime Minister, the UCC, that is the Uganda Communications Commission. These bodies work together with Ubos as a semi-autonomous body to ensure the effectiveness of the population census. Bodies such as the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development failed to collaborate with the Ubos in planning, in actualizing the plan for the population census, and also in overseeing and mobilizing the population census. The Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development was responsible for properly funding Ubos in the effectiveness of the population census. This was seen as the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development failed on its burden to collaborate with us in funding the population census, as the first money that was allocated to us, that was 339 billion, was not enough. So we as the Ubos requested for an additional budget of 40 billion. Because of the parliament and its bureaucracies, this money delayed to reach us, and this affected our agencies. This affected the implementation of the population census. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, who do we blame for this? Do we still blame Ubos, a body that does not have the capability to fund its own self? We have bodies such as the local government. The local government was to recruit enumerators, and in Kampala, some mayors facilitated the recruitment of unverified applicants. It was revealed that out of the regarded 114,000 enumerators, 20,000 had not been assigned the responsibility due to the backdoor recruitment of the local government. We do not blame this on the Ubos, because the Ubos, as a semi-autonomous body, it had to share responsibilities with bodies like the local government for the effectiveness of the population census. This information is from the Daily Monitor, 30th May 2024. We have bodies such as the Uganda Communications Commission that was responsible in sensitizing the public about population census. It was to sensitize the public. Granted.
Did they sensitize?
They did sensitize, but this sensitization was not done appropriately, because we saw that in some areas the enumerators were killed because of the poor sensitization of the UCC. In areas such as Mawaggali, where enumerators were set to enumerate Nammo village in Njeri municipality, Buruka district, an enumerator was seen nursing his wounds because he was injured by the people that were supposed to be asking questions. This information was collected on the May 19, 2024. We also have bodies. We also have other challenges that occurred in the population census, such as natural disasters, that we cannot blame on the Ubos. The flood that happened in Kasese and the landslides slowed down the population census. We cannot blame this on Ubos, because Ubos does not have any power upon nature. As I conclude, I would like to give the following suggestions for us, the Ubos, because we believe in accountability for the citizens of Uganda. Ubos, we as the Ubos, we call for collaboration between us and the MOFE to ensure mobilizations of resources to avoid issues of insufficient funding. We call for collaboration with the Uganda Communications Commission to ensure sufficient sensitization of the masses about census to avoid issues of opposition by the public. We also call for collaboration with the local government to have one straight policy. This is to avoid backdoor recruitments. We also want to prove that the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development should take census seriously by collaborating with us, because the data that is collected from the census is used for it in effective planning for the government. So it therefore has an obligation to follow up the population census in order for the success of Uganda. Dear judges, with that I rest my case.
This is the High School Crossfire. We'll be back in a minute.